Hello, everybody. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. This is Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate you. Cannot be stated enough. Thank you for all of the support and just the time that you give. If you're listening on the road, if you're listening at home, however it is that you're listening, you know that I appreciate it. And now here's the thing. Because I saw this story about Dak Prescott, and you know that he was one of my favorite players in college football last year. I was just impressed with his accuracy, his decisions making the football. Well, Dak Prescott is now under fire for decisions that he made on Twitter. And there's a little bit of controversy as to the timing of these decisions. And I have a very strong opinion about it because I hate it when people do this. I hate the whole thing that we do in media is, oh, look, somebody did something wrong. Time to fire up the shame machine and then like point it at whatever unfortunate soul is standing in the way and just unleash. So we'll get into that story just a little bit. I'd like to talk to you about the platforms of Hot News Talk Radio. Here at Hot News Talk Radio, unlike other stations, won't name names, we believe that radio is a two-way street, okay? I'm talking to you, but I want you to talk back. I invite you to join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, where we stream all of our local shows live and keep our classic episodes archived just for you to join in and listen. You can comment in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you. Also, push that little subscribe button down there. We like that too. Also, you could follow me personally. I have a Twitter account at SportsCloud. Our Twitter account is at Hot News Radio. And we post news and opinions all day, every day. The best in the business. You can also go to hotnewstalkradio.com, where you can access all of the social media I mentioned previously and stream Hot News Talk Radio 24/7. So not only do you get the local shows with Russell and myself and Mr. David Tulis and Jill, you get more than that. You get our national shows too, the CBS News and Colin Cowherd and Sean Hannity and Mike Gallagher and Free Talk Live, all of those things and much more. So check us out on hotnewstalkradio.com. Also, if you want to listen to us mobily, I suggest the TuneIn Radio app. Again, that's the TuneIn Radio app. Search in your favorite app store for the TuneIn Radio app. In the app, search Hot News Talk Radio, give us a favorite, and press play, and you'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. So now that that's all been said, let's jump into the story of Dak Prescott, because I hate stuff like this, right? Like it's one of the most annoying things to me on planet Earth is how we drudge up these stories and how we read them and how we cite them, especially we in the media. We're the worst of this. Like nobody does this garbage more than we do. So Dak Prescott, not unlike many people, has been critical of Tony Romo's entire career, right? Tony Romo is one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. I think he is probably unduly criticized. He's criticized more often than I think he should be, but he does have a penchant for throwing interceptions in games at the worst possible time, right? Like that's not something that you can deny. He has a penchant for doing that. And Tony Romo was criticized by Dak Prescott 4 years ago on Twitter. The only reason why this issue is now an issue is that Dak Prescott is now a Dallas Cowboy and the backup quarterback of and the teammate of one Tony Romo, who he has previously criticized. And honestly, this isn't a big deal. It isn't a big deal. He criticized Tony Romo in a number of tweets 4 years ago when the Cowboys were playing the Redskins for the division title in the last week of the season. That was the Robert Griffin season, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in those tweets, he said, I'm not standing up for Tony Romo anymore. These are terrible interceptions. That was the basic outline of the tweets, because I had them pulled up on my phone, and as usual, when I rely on my phone fails me. But here's the thing. Those tweets happened 4 years ago, and it's supposed to be awkward and weird, and I'm reading this report on CBS Sports, and the person who is doing the reporting is like writing with this apparent glee, like we caught Dak Prescott writing stuff about Tony Romo that he shouldn't have been writing. And it's weird that we're this happy about it. And Dak Prescott wrote 4 years ago. You know how old Dak Prescott is right now? You know? Dak Prescott's 22 years old. Dak Prescott wrote these tweets criticizing Tony Romo when he was 18. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we firing up the shame machine for Dak Prescott? Why is this happening? He's now teammates with Tony, and the article is just going on. Well, boy, that seems awkward. Like, what are we, gossiping middle schoolers? This is insane. It is going to be semi-awkward, except he was 18. I mean, I have the same problem with the people who go back through the tweets that Kevin Durant had when he was in high school and Damian Lillard had back when he was in high school, and they're using homophobic slurs and all of those things, right? And here's the thing. Like, that was something that if you were a high school boy, like, that was cool in the 2000s, 2010s. Like, that was the way that people spoke. And now we know better, and now we don't talk like that. Why are you going back and digging all that stuff up out the past? Who does that help? It doesn't help Durant and Lillard and Prescott, because they've already grown since then. They don't talk that way now. Dak Prescott right now will not be on Twitter criticizing other NFL athletes. He's in the NFL. Okay, I'm on Twitter. I've been on Twitter for 5 years now. If I go back in my tweets to 5 years ago, you're gonna find that I've been critical of a lot of people. And it's not going to be relevant because I will probably in likelihood never meet those people. I've been critical of a lot of athletes. I've been critical of a lot of members of the media, and I was young to do it. I've been critical of people who currently work at ESPN. And wouldn't that be weird if somehow one day I ended up working at ESPN, just somewhere on down the road, let's say, and, you know, one of those tweets comes up. You know how that's going to go down? We're going to probably handle that like adults and just laugh at it. Like, yeah, that was a long time ago. I didn't know the business, but you knew the business. And my ignorance is clearly shown. Like, Dak Prescott must know now, after playing at Mississippi State, being possibly one of the greatest Mississippi State Bulldogs ever, he must know now that playing the quarterback position is not as easy as he said as a high schooler. Obviously. He wouldn't say those things again, I'm sure, if given the opportunity. You know, and it's another reason to be wary on social media, because people will jump down your throat, and this stuff never goes away. Like, he deleted the tweets. He didn't just leave them up there. But nothing's ever truly, truly deleted on the internet. And this idea that we now have to shame Dak Prescott because look at this embarrassing thing that he said about Tony Romo 4 years ago. Isn't that going to be awkward for them as teammates? No, it's not. Because Dak Prescott is an adult and Tony Romo is an adult. And from just listening to him, quite frankly, a consummate professional. So what's there to talk about? We just inflate stuff because we like drama and we want to talk about football, and there's no football to talk about. So we're just going to talk about it like it's an episode of Grey's Anatomy. It doesn't make any sense. Like, with this, we've got two grown men, and one was a kid when he tweeted stuff. So now it's awkward. And the person writing the article, and I wish I could find it, man, the person writing the article was basically like, I hope Tony Romo basically welcomes everyone to the Dallas Cowboys on Twitter, except for Dak Prescott. Why? because you would handle that situation as though you were 13 years old, because he's not going, like, that shouldn't be your hope. That really shouldn't be your hope. Hope for world peace. Hope for the end of famine and hunger. Hope for the end of cancer. Don't hope that Tony Romo doesn't invite everybody to the Dallas Cowboys on Twitter. What a petty human being to write that particular article. I mean, it's not going to make things awkward, okay? That only makes things awkward if you're 12. Dak Prescott's a grown dude. Tony Romo's a grown dude. I think they got this. It'll be all right. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me today, giving me just a little slice of your day. You know that I appreciate you. I'm still looking for this story because, like, I have to. Like, I couldn't believe it when I was reading it. I was like, this is the kind of stuff that makes me mad. And possibly, maybe they removed the story. I don't know. Because I was ready to go. I was ready to go. And I don't have the tweets pulled up because obviously they're just pictures of the tweets. They're not the actual tweets themselves. I can't tell you how shocked I am that the Kentucky Derby, like, went the way that it did. I told you I wasn't going to pay attention to the Kentucky Derby. I lied to you. I did pay attention a little bit to the Kentucky Derby. Nyquist wins the Kentucky Derby. But I was listening to some stuff on the Kentucky Derby, and people were talking about Nyquist, and I was like, okay, let me get into this Nyquist situation. And all of the experts were like, Nyquist has a good chance to win, but they're not sure that Nyquist really could win it. And pedigree plays a lot into this whole thing with horses, which I'm not going to lie, I'm not super duper familiar with. But like this whole underdog story with Nyquist is like, I'm rooting for Nyquist to win the Triple Crown. I know. But for me, there's no other way to pay attention to the Triple Crown but to say, okay, Nyquist won the Kentucky Derby. Can he win the other two races? And the experts are like, no, not really. So I want something to root for. So Nyquist winning the Kentucky Derby is at least good for me and horse racing, because I now have a reason to pay attention to horse racing.